Hello and welcome to session 3 of Brindlewood Bay. We are continuing from last session where we engaged with the mystery of the Great Brindlewood Bay Bake-Off. We saw our cast of characters. There was the murder of a somewhat obnoxious host. We'll be talking about the NPCs from that, the suspects, some of the clues here in just a second before we kind of move on to start of session. If you're watching this is part of the Gauntlet Hangouts, which is an online gaming club / community. We have more information about that at gauntlet-rpg.com. I'm not going to give you a whole spiel because we're at session 3, and I'm sure you've heard it if you're watching the one before this. So let's look at our table of suspects. I added in a picture for the librarian that we established last time, Kelly Chandler. So that's also on the NPC page. So we had Paul Riviera. He's our murder victim, found face down in his trailer, flour on his face, kind of pushed down in the flour, his hog-tied with a lovely knot, but poison was in fact the cause of death, as you've found out. Jane Leaf is his co-host, elderly, pleasant, notable veteran cookbook and writer and television presenter. Timothy Boosh has hung around and has been a little morose, has kind of popped up. He's one of our two presenters. Sue Mellon is our more jovial presenter who had a slight disagreement with Paul Riviera over a certain British political figure. Scott Lamb is a previous contestant who had a row with Paul Riviera and essentially got booted off last time. There's some suspicions about his involvement with Paul, which will come back. He was brought in here as kind of a ringer stunt casting. Melanie Blair is a local who panics during the cook-off process. Heath Hendricks is our producer who's just been kind of obnoxious and pushing in at the edges. Buck is our very pleasant cameraman, and Buck he seems to be close with Riviera's wife, Donna Riviera, or at least Donna Riviera is very handsy with the hands around Buck. Our clues are a sheet cake that says you're dead. Sue hinting at proclivities, essentially hinting at a relationship with Scott Lamb that then you followed up. You were able to see that Scott, in fact, was deleting some intimate messages between him and Paul. We noted that the apron tie of Jane Leaf's apron is a similar pattern to the nylon cords that the knots were tied on Paul. We saw that Jane's cookbook had some pages cut out, and you were able to track back that the reason was that Paul had plagiarized those recipes and that the publisher had to pull back that, and that Jane was unhappy with him because of that. That relates to Paul's general outrageous contractual demands. We got Paul died from poisoning. Someone demanded money from Paul. We got that from a videotape. We heard off screen him telling somebody that he would not give them any more money. And then from the receipts that were discovered in Paul's bed and breakfast room, it's clear he has been spending a great deal of the television company's money. Anything else we need to get in frame about incidents or details or texture on those clues? Scott, anything you want to add?
Let me get the list back up. I think that covers what the clues are so far. So.
And you got a sprained ankle from jumping out of a window. We have that.
I actually have a broken leg. I think
Oh, that's right.
Rose
Rose had
has
the
the
sprained
sprained
wrist.
ankle.
Yeah.
Yeah, sprained wrist.
Yeah. Will, anything you want to add to the text or anything that we left off in my summary there?
No, I think that was a great summary. I am currently trying to build my internal narrative of, exactly who could have done what, sort of thing.
And you're still jumpy. You still haven't been able to clear that issue, especially after your vision, the dream you had with Amanda Krause last time.
But it beats having a broken shin.
Yes, that's true. Anything else, Dan, that you want to add to the summary?
The only other thing I remember was Bobby meeting up with Etienne, the fishmonger, and that was it last episode that he had a heart attack? Wow.
Yes, he had been quite unpleasant because he's very angry at Amanda Krause because the late Mr. Krause was his friend, and apparently just shortly after he shunned Amanda Krause at the fish market, he had a heart attack.
Right.
And he's been laid up.
I couldn't remember if that was a heart attack or another poisoning, but okay.
No. At least it's said to be a heart attack.
Yeah.
But no one knows entirely certain about these things. There was also the issue of the person who had a mermaid object similar to yours.
Yes.
And you get the name of the person who had that, so you do have somebody to follow up on with that. So let's go through start a session where we establish what additional 2 questions you want for your XP questions today, and get those set. So Ruby, what do you want this time as your 2 questions in addition to did you solve a mystery?
Is that me? I'm sorry. I always.
That's Ruby.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Well, I'm going to go with the undermine the authority of a local official this time.
Okay.
And let's share a memory of a late family member, since I have these unused items.
And you got an advancement, right? You filled your XP track.
I did. I'll have to pick that right now.
Okay,
so.
sure. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. The other thing I want to mention, this is we talked about this a little bit at the end of last session. You have your cozy little place items. When you use those, if they fit in with something, you can give yourself advantage on a roll. So it's a useful way ahead of time to help boost yourself. And that's why we have that as an advance is being able to clear all the check marks on that cozy little place. Rosemary, what do you want as your 2 questions?
So do we clear the ones that we took last session even if they don't trigger activate? Is that right? Okay, cool. I want to dote on someone, and I want to what are you going for? Secretly undermine. I'll stick with to share my wisdom with a young person as well.
That is a classic, and you're 1 tick away from XP advance there. Bobby, what do you want as your 2?
I was going to try and pick. I thought I would pick the 2 that have not been chosen. So I'm going to try to behave like a woman half my age and show someone that I've still got it.
I think those are nice thematically tied elements there. And you're exhausted. Remind me how did you get exhausted last time?
I think it was dealing with Etienne's heart attack.
Oh, that's right.
I was like having to call 911 and
that's right.
Stuff like that.
So we're going to take up here. We've just had the pastry segment of the show, which some people were triumphant with. others less so. But you have a break time. Essentially, the producer, gives you 2 hours to next setup, which will be kind of a preparation, talking through and planning out a showstopper project with cake and sugar work will be the thing. But you've got some time either to investigate or to do cozy scenes to help yourself or help one another. Do we want to have the three of you chat first, or should we kind of go to scenes? What would you like to do here, Dan?
Oh, let me just look at evidence just for a sec. I'm wondering if maybe we, at least two of us, do some kind of cozy move to try and clear some of these conditions.
Okay.
Dive in.
Yeah, let's work on that, and then we can kind of have a meeting of the minds about what the next steps are. So, what do you want to do?
I am wondering if maybe Ruby invited us to a local birding spot. It's not really my kind of thing, but I felt like she has a broken shin, so I wanted to help her get out there to do that.
What is the like the hotness in the birding community right now, Ruby?
I think that I think it's puffin breeding season, so the puffins are nearby.
So that
normally
requires,
normally they're at the Atlantic Ocean, but during breeding season they're closer to the Maine coast.
So we would see you go down. Of course, having to look down there on the shoreline. So there's a little bit of that cliff looking over the edge there. Would you also go along with this, Bobby? Would you also go birding?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's not my thing, but I did feel bad for Ruby. So.
Okay. Do you have binoculars, or does Ruby have to supply the binoculars?
Yeah, I don't. They're in storage somewhere. I just, once Robert died, I just didn't deal with any of that stuff. So I'll just squint down and see if I can see any.
And Rosemary, is this your speed?
Why? I can't let dear Bobby just take care of Ruby all on her own.
So the three of you will head off a short walk to the cliffside to have a chance to talk and do the look at these puffins.
I hope you realize, Ruby, that they will not give you votes. They won't go easy on you just because you broke your leg.
That's the least of my concerns. Do you see there that breeding pair? Have you ever seen something so beautiful? You can only see these for 2 weeks a year.
Well, aren't we lucky? It's Rosemary is just like not even barely paying attention to them at all.
So let's start with you, Rosemary. What is it you want to have come out of this interaction there? It's not your cozy activity by a long shot, but you do still get to pick one here.
I think I will clear a condition.
Okay.
I'll finally get rid of my jumpy. I do look up and actually look up from my the recipe book, Jane's recipe book that I've been sort of reading rather than actually paying attention as we stand here. And I look up and I do see the beautiful sight of a mating pair of birds, and it relaxes me.
It's natural. It's ordered. There's nothing. It's not this weirdness, the shadow that has hung over you. Now, I believe we should also check. I think you have is it you that has a crown of the?
Oh,
the
I do.
void?
Yes, I have Crown of the Void.
So
staring out I guess it's like on a cliff, like nearby the sea, something,
Yeah.
right? Like, I wonder what I might glimpse in the depths of the dark, the deep.
I think that, yeah, you do. It clears your jumpy, but yet it is that the ocean that is there, that same water that you've seen bleed out several times, that same color is there at the edges, and you get that chill just for a moment before you pull yourself together. Um, so, Bobby, what do you want to have happen here? What's your pick from this move?
I had an idea, and I wonder if you all are okay with this. I wonder if I stumble on a clue relevant to the act of mystery.
Well, that is if it was your activity.
Oh, only this is mine. Okay.
Yeah.
I missed that. Okay, I see it now. I will also just clear a condition that I find even though it was a bit of a hike to get up here on the cliff, I find it very invigorating to be outdoors in nature and watching the puffins, who I'm pretty sure are fighting. They're not. They must be fighting.
And you bike around a lot, so
Yeah.
this is, you like being out in the fresh air, and so this does relax you and clear that. And Ruby, your friends have been generous enough to come with you to take this break. What is it that you want?
I want to clear guilty. Um, was one of us was, well, Rose is an excellent baker. I mean, we've established that. She's
Yes.
definitely the one we look forward to when we have our book club meetings. When she has snack night. Was Bobby one of the off ones like myself?
It was solid mediocrity. Is what I would say.
Bobby, I was wondering if do you have any baking cookbooks?
I do have a couple. They're old. You know, I must have gotten them, when the kids were very young, so we could do some baking together. You know, I learned a bunch of things from my mother, so that's most of the baking that I've done comes from the recipes that she has written down.
Well, I hesitate to be so forward. I'll get you a more recent book. Perhaps you could benefit from some of the more modern techniques that might be in this one, while preserving the delightful nature of your family recipes, of course.
They have this thing called flavor now. It's really, you must try.
Oh.
Well, that's Ruby. That's very, very kind of you. I am very busy with the antique jewelry thing I have going on the side. But if so, I can't promise that I will try any of the recipes. But you know, I am always interested in your recommendations, especially book and cooking recommendations.
I hope you don't think I was saying anything too harsh about your baking options. Of course, we of course look forward to when everybody is baking for the club.
Ruby, I am a lady of age. It would take a lot more to offend me. I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses.
So as the three of you are walking back, heading back for the afternoon setup, I assume at some point the conversation will turn towards what's next. Who do we look at? What do we know? It's not necessarily theorized, but the group had decided that they wanted to do another round of looking into things. So Rose, what are you saying when that conversation opens up?
So mechanically, I feel we're at the right number of clues. I feel like, you know what I mean?
You want
Like
a couple more pieces to play with?
I think I want at least another bake-off scene. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like another bit of the bake-off, and
Sure.
then maybe like a. But I'm wondering because something about I love the idea of revealing the killer um, during the showstopper. I don't know how to make that work, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, let's go back and frame up this afternoon, getting ready for the showstopper, and then we can move to something sort of post that and investigations or setups or things. How does
yeah,
that sound?
yeah,
So they bring you back. You can tell that they're still trying to figure out how to shoot this so Paul's absence is less obvious. And Jane seems to be doing her best to fill the space. Sue's laughter is perhaps more nervous throughout this, and Timothy Bush is still kind of morosely hanging around. And the challenge is put to you is we need you to bake a cake. We need this cake to be at least 3 tiers. And we need this cake to be decorated with sugarwork of some kind. Needs to demonstrate the skill and anything. The theme is open for you. You can certainly do whatever it is you wish, but I hope that it reflects our American cousins here and your particular vivra and style that you can bring to the table. And you're going to have 2 hours today to do planning and prep. And then tomorrow morning, bright and early, we will have you in and you'll have 4 hours to do your full bakes. So I'll let you go. And of course, the cameraman Buck is on each of you. They're coming to check in. They bring in a person who's going to do those marvelous kind of sketches of what you're doing, and so you have to talk to them about what you're planning. And there's a lot of interruptions throughout this process. So Ruby, when they come over to you and Heath is like, okay, what are you doing? Give us the basic idea of that, and we'll figure out how we want to film that. What are you doing, Ruby?
Well, I was going to do a layered Victoria sponge cake.
Mm-hmm.
Is going to use the different layers would of course be all flavored with some of our delightful summer fruits. Some here from Maine, some from close by. So we'll have a peach layer and a blueberry layer and a cranberry layer and a rhubarb and strawberry layer. It will be delicious, all mixed together.
All right. Boosh, fruit jokes, that kind of usual thing. Do that here. We'll get the setup on that. All right. Okay, good. And I'll have you talk to our conceptual person. You can give them the basics on that. All right. And then they move in over to where you're at, Bobby. And Heath is like, okay, Bobby, right? It's Bobby.
Yeah.
What is it that you're planning on doing here for this?
Her attitude is very curt because she's kind of trying to scope things out a little bit, just kind of get a sense of the players. But she says, I'll be doing a challah bread.
A challah bread for a cake.
Oh, did you say for a cake? Or I thought you said we could do anything we wanted.
Oh, you can do whatever cake you want.
Oh, whatever cake we want. Oh, forgive me then. Let me rewind that. She was paying attention to that.
I like the idea that you say that and then you like have to pause and he's like, we'll come back to you. And then he comes back to you like 2 minutes later. Okay, have you thought of it?
Yes, forgive me. I am going to do a flourless chocolate cake.
You hear from behind you as you say that, and you will look back and you will see Melanie Blair like The scritching as she's crossing things out on her tablet. He's like, okay, Florence, okay, anything I should know about the sugar work you're doing for this? What kind of motif?
It's going to have a mermaid pattern on it.
Interesting. Good. New England kind of thing. All right. Good. And he will move on. Rose, when he comes to you, okay, give us the what is the skinny on this?
Well, my cake is called the special relationship, and it symbolizes our long relationship with our friends from over the Atlantic. Taken one of Jane's recipes, and I have given it the old Yankee twist. And it is the tiara of good old red, white, and blue. The colors that stand strong in both our flags.
All right, good. Anything about the sugar work we should do? Are you using the sugar for the flag, or?
The sugar work will be fantastic.
Okay, all right. We'll get a person over here for that. Check that out. And then it gets that kind of crazy. They have to plan out, get your ingredients set. You're mapping things out. If you have like frames, you're having to cut those to coming around. Ruby, who is it that kind of comes and talks to you during this time? Who do you want to talk to? Either presenter on camera or Jane or one of the other contestants here?
I think I'd like to talk to another contestant.
Okay.
I think my table's not too far from, what's his name, Scott?
Scott? Yeah.
Yeah. You think I'd remember that name?
Yeah.
Given that it's my own. So I think my table's near Scott's, and I'm rolling around on a wheelchair. The trying to stand was just too much, and so occasionally I need to bug him to just get down something for me.
He's that kind of planned out persnickety person. So each time you kind of interrupt him, the camera's on him, so he doesn't want to be rude on camera, but you can tell that each time okay, yes, I can get that for you. Get that. Yeah, I'll get that. Yeah, absolutely. More than happy to help you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And he's like, so what happened with your foot?
I took a tumble. You know how it is. Did you hear about the fire?
And you see him pause in that way that, of course, he had to have. Yes, I've heard about the fire bed and breakfast. I wasn't staying there. I have my own apartment in town.
No, I took a tumble out the window. I was trapped in a room.
But why were you at the bed and breakfast?
They serve a light dinner, of course.
And you see him pause, and he's trying to parse that. So
I was in the bathroom upstairs, which is or maybe you don't. I guess you're staying somewhere else. But it's
yes, no, I've never been to that bed and breakfast.
Oh well, the bathroom is sandwiched in between. I guess the room that Paul was using, and is his name Bosch? What do we name him?
Timothy Bouche.
Bouche, and Mr. Bouche's room. I was lucky to be able to squeeze out that window.
Oh, well, all right then. And he'll kind of go back to his work. Is there anything else you want to push on him or get from him?
I think I comment that how much I really miss Paul, that having him kind of poo-poo what I'm doing it's just part of the experience. He always came across grumpy, but when he's not here, I just feel like I miss him. What about you? I know you had some bad experiences between the two of you, but you seem to be getting on this time.
Pauses, and he says, Paul will certainly be missed by people.
He will indeed.
I have to get back to my meringue. Bobby, who do you want to interact with or talk with here?
I was thinking I might harangue Jane Leaf a bit.
She'll come over and she's like, so a flourless chocolate cake?
Yeah, Bobby says, I noticed there was sort of a lack of variety and, let's say, ethnic delicacies, both on the show in general, but also in your cookbook.
No, we have ethnic dishes and breads of all kinds of varying things. Sometimes we have Italian, sometimes we have Greek, so very international.
Sure.
Those sort of dishes. Sometimes, of course, the Scandinavian things. So I wouldn't say that we're entirely. Anyway.
Well, I'm just trying to introduce some variety into a show that has long seemed to me to run very even keel. This Paul's departure, though, should certainly shake things up.
He will leave a hole in the show that it will be difficult to fill. But the show must go on.
You and he seem to get along so well on camera. You have very complementary styles. Do you feel like maybe this isn't the place for you anymore?
No, this is my show, she says with a real severity. While Paul was there at the start, it was certainly my reputation and cachet that got it produced in the first place.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. You were published long before Paul came on the scene. Everybody knew Jane Leaf's books.
Absolutely. But of course they had to have a hotshot, handsome man but we'll find someone else there. I'm certain that we can do that. Yes.
Yes. It's always handsome men are a dime a dozen, but talented women like us, we are much harder to find.
Very true. Very true. We women have to stick together in these things.
Oh, and I wanted to ask you one thing. You had said that some of the recipes in the latest cookbook that you all put out were that Paul had plagiarized them. And I'm curious if you know who the original author is.
And let's have you make a meddling roll, I think, at this point.
That's what I figured we would do. Let me just look at my abilities. I'm going to say reason. I feel like I'm putting two and two together here.
Absolutely. Now, do you have we'll check in, just do you have any items that you think would be appropriate for this? Maybe not.
No, I mean, WD-40 always loosens everything. But not. All right, so I'm just going to roll. And I rolled a 9 plus 2 is 11.
An 11. So on a 10 plus, you find a clue.
Lowell, if I put on a crown, does that get me to 12 plus?
Yes, it does.
I feel like I want to crown it up this session. I don't know.
Okay.
So,
what crown do you want?
I'll start with let's do a burgeoning romance.
And what we'll come back to that scene here for that thing. But Jane says, it's a very odd story. And you see her look over at Melanie Blair, and she says, this is all sort of secondhand. Apparently, Miss Blair, her family had a bakery here in town.
I remember it. Yeah.
That shut down after when Mr. Riviera's bake shop came in. Apparently, he was here at a very unusual time. This is what makes it so strange. He was here not for setting up the bake shop, but apparently there was some sort of doomsday cult here or some sort of celebration. I don't want to say cult. That may be stretching things too much, but apparently back New Year's Eve of 2011, there were a number of people who believed in a convergence of energies, and that the Brindlewood Bay was tied into those, and they flocked to the town. There was apparently a great end of the world party that got broken up, I believe, by the police, as I understand it. And actually, the reason I bring this up is because, as I understand it, Paul has a small record here as a result of an arrest at that. The revelers, most of them apparently went their separate ways the next day, but that's where Paul apparently crossed paths with Miss Blair. And some of those recipes from Miss Blair's family are the ones that ended up in Paul's cookbook. I don't think he believed that Miss Blair had published any of them, but she had at a small vanity press, which gave her a call to copyright. That's part of the reason she's here, is as part of the settlement. But it was a very strange affair. Paul doesn't. Paul. I had to prise that out of him. He really didn't want to talk about that, and but he's the one who pushed for us coming to Brindlewood Bay in the first place. Something about it had a siren song for him.
Yes, I remember that event very well. The ladies and I think that was one of our first mysteries that we solved together, and that New Year's Eve celebration. But of course, I don't remember Paul. He was not famous then. He was not like the great Jane Leaf, had not yet made a name for himself. So.
No, it's true, but a very strange affair.
That is very strange. Well, I appreciate your telling me.
And she will head off, having left you with another little piece of Brindlewood Bay history that tells you something about the strangeness here. Rose, who do you want to have a scene with or interact with here?
It's Donna Riviera, I think. In a break, perhaps in filming, it's perhaps sat with Buck, maybe at a table somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can catch up with her. She has, as she always does, a drink in her hand, and Rosie, wasn't it? Wasn't it Rosie?
Yes, that's right. I just wanted to say how truly sorry I am, Miss Riviera, about the passing of your dear husband.
It's the thing that gets me is I always thought if anyone was going to kill him, I would. I really did. I was pretty certain of that. And it's like him to upstage everyone by getting himself murdered
Indeed, how very selfish of him. Oh,
and getting married, murdered overseas. I've already talked to some people. You know how much it's going to cost to have his body shipped back?
truly a vast amount, I imagine. Oh, Buck, I see Mr. Riviere's drink is running dry. Why don't you be a dear and do run along, and why don't you refreshen that for the poor woman?
And they'll do that. Get that poured in.
Yeah, and I think as Buck goes off to get the drink, Rose is like, if I was just 20 years younger.
You don't need to be 20 years younger. And she sips and she eyes him hungrily.
Nice.
The trick is these young somethings, they want to get ahead, and they think that proximity to fame perhaps gives insight, access. They don't need to know better.
Well, I hope you will come over and have a slice of my special relationship. I'm sure it will set your heart. It will my tribute to your dear late husband. And
She's like,
maybe
I'll have a little, but I really don't like cake.
Yeah, I would like to. I'd like to sound her out. I'm trying to think of a way of sounding her out discreetly about like Scott and Paul. Like, I'm just not sure how to do it without being utterly crass because the husband's just died. So.
Well, what are you afraid will happen if you push on that button?
That it'll just be very obnoxious and rude to be saying about, hey, your husband had affairs and he's I suppose
that seems like a day move here.
Yeah, good. That's what I was hoping for.
And you are an American.
Yes,
you're playing.
Exactly, yeah.
Remember, you're playing an American now, not a Canadian or a Brit. We're totally fine with that here.
Yeah. So your husband, who's recently, I'm so sorry about your husband. Now, what's that toy boy of his doing in the show? Oh, yeah, maybe that's what I say. And I'm like, and can you believe, we're talking about Buck and the young people and everything. And I'm like, yes, I have heard. Is that how Scott and Paul got together? Where is the dice roller, by the way?
Let me find that.
The link, I think, is on the moves tab.
Yes,
in the middle
I've
column.
seen it, yes. I just have to scroll down slightly.
I discovered yesterday the solution to the problem with the roller is to roll your dice, delete them, and just delete them after everything. And that way it always gives you results rather than having to wait for one die to roll and then, a 2-second delay on the second one.
It's just when it snatches away the big win. You're like, oh, yes, 12. Oh, no. Snake eyes.
So what are you doing this with? What?
I'm doing this with, I think, I don't know. Could I make the argument for composure? Like I am unflappable by this.
Yeah, you specifically said you were trying to get planned and composed for this, so I think that's a fair thing to roll.
Oof. Oh, wait. I meant to do this before. I meant to like have Jane's cookbook with me so that I could use advantage on it.
Absolutely. Go ahead and mark that. Yeah.
Because I wanted to actually use one of those cozy items this time. Cool. So that is a 9 overall.
There's a 9 overall.
And is there any advantage to getting a 12 plus, particularly?
You do intend to hold steady. Keeper will tell you an extra benefit or advantage you receive. Describe what it looks like.
It's not a void clue.
That's not a void clue on this one.
Yeah, then I will not put on a crown for something that won't give me a void clue.
Yeah. She will say, well, I may have put the two of them in one another's path after I was done with them. You know, Scott, he's a dear. He was fun for a while, but I mean, and she kind of goes, I certainly didn't resent it when they went on to do their thing.
So was it a menage a trois, or I suppose a 3-layer cake of some sort?
And she says, somewhat bitterly, no, they weren't interested in that.
Cool. So I think I've put enough innuendo into the scene.
And we'll kind of have that finished up, the prep, and Heath says, all right, bright and early, 8 a.m. tomorrow. We're going to be burning daylight. We need you to get here right then. We'll have everybody have your stuff set up, ingredients out, so you'll be able to just come in and do things, get that set. We'll be doing some candids in between. So we'll see you tomorrow, everyone. And he heads off. You can see he's gotten like a little more stressed with the absence of Paul. And he's still trying to run this ship as tightly as he can. So let's bring the three of you together to talk about what you learned, see if you want to move to theorize, or you want to do another round of looking into things. So, Rose, have we been at your house yet?
Yes, we've been at my house with the fancy furniture.
That's right. So whose house have we not been at? Bobby's?
We were at my house in the first.
Oh, that's right. So I think we've been at everyone's house. So where do we find you? Should we find you upstairs at the coffee house this time? Back there?
Yeah, and Rose is bringing over like refusing cake at the counter. Like, oh, I just couldn't. I could. Well, okay, maybe one for Ruby. I'll just take a little one for Ruby. Poor dear does need to keep her strength up.
Is she okay? When we had that elevator put in for handicap safety, so she's able to get up there okay?
Oh yes, she's a strong force of nature, that one.
Okay. I'll bring up your coffees and lattes a little bit later, says Priya.
Don't you worry, Priya. Old birds might look fragile, but they don't break so easily.
And she looks over at Ruby. Okay.
I realized I should try and shoehorn in some wisdom to give to a younger person.
Okay. And you definitely see there are a couple of the young people that kind of sit up here, but when you arrive, they know you, and they clearly kind of, before you can even get there, they've kind of moved over to another one of the small tables, and they're still teens, but they kind of get out of your way and give you the room that you need, because they're afraid that you know their moms. So you sit. Priya will come up, will bring the coffees to you, brings a few more baked goods that don't look that great. And she's like, so here's some things. Just thought I'd, because I know you're on the baking show, some things I might have made yesterday. Just maybe, see what you think, kind of thing. And heads out.
Rose just pushes it towards Ruby. Like her plate just slides across the table towards Ruby.
Make it and eat it. She made it. She's a very pretty young lady.
She is indeed. Well,
What a tangled web we have found ourselves in.
indeed. It's the story behind the camera is even better than the one in front. It's, poor Donna. She does seem quite put out, but not all that sad about her dear husband.
Well, would you be sad if your philandering husband passed away and you were left with his estate?
When you put it like that, I suppose not. But I don't know. She did seem as though she did bear some affection for the man.
And I can't imagine there was a lot of money there if he had all those expenses and things piling up and demanding more compensation.
He had been spending a lot.
I wonder who was demanding money from him. Was it Scott, perhaps? But ruin his image in the press and the tabloids back home?
I hear those British tabloids can be quite fearsome.
Indeed. I'll take Bat Boy any day of the week. I wonder if perhaps we know that Paul stole recipes from poor Mel, but perhaps the person who threatened Paul is not the one who killed them.
So Melanie struck me as far too desperate to win, to be someone who has leverage in this situation or a need.
I think that Scott was perhaps extorting money from Paul, but Mel also has taken her opportunity to get some sort of to have her say against Paul. Hence the cake, that sheet cake with "You're dead" on there. And I wonder, but is Mel desperate enough to murder Paul? And is she strong enough to have tied him up like that?
Again, it seems unlikely. She's gotten what she wants. I think she would have preferred him to live so that she could humiliate him. I agree that Scott seems like the one who's the most hurt by all of this.
You just never know. Everyone makes revenge their own recipe.
It's true. If we've learned nothing.
Ruby, what do you think?
I think it must have stung that Scott and Paul had this wonderful relationship in private, but in public, Paul treated him like he was no more than a bad sous chef.
Broken heart, you think?
Spending that money was probably for a reason. I think he was buying his boy toy some presents. Try to keep him happy. Try to keep him quiet.
Ladies, I know we have to stick together, but I don't know why we're not talking about Jane Leaf.
Poor Jane.
Poor Jane, my elbow. She is clearly feeling like she's being dragged down by Paul and all of his mess.
The woman is an icon, an international icon, indeed.
However, her reputation would have been at stake if it had made public that her name was on a book. I feel you are right.
You think Jane maybe was so
Scott and
betrayed
Paul
by Paul?
are they have I don't know if they've rekindled their love, but they certainly spending time together.
Also,
Usually the blackmailer doesn't kill the blackmailee. It's the other way around.
well, as dear Rose just said, anything is possible. in murder. I also
This is true. It's like wait, what's that one move? Don't we have a move where?
Oh, the
Holy
book.
Crap Mysteries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's your turn, Ruby.
This reminds me of that time when Amanda Delacourt was caught up in that pie baking festival, and the two judges. Well, turned out there was lots of bad blood between them.
The case of the 4 and 20 blackbirds. Yes, I remember.
Oof. One of my all-time favorites, of course.
Well, hopefully we are able to find the killer before the body count gets quite as high as that book. It's rather shocking, I thought.
It was a little much. Not my favorite.
So, Ruby, with this invoking of the Gold Crown Mysteries move, you can take 12 plus to a single relevant roll, or state a fact about the current situation that will incorporate.
I think the fact is they're co-owners of the show, with the stipulation in their contract that upon the passing of the one, ownership of the show reverts 100% to the other person. Is not considered marital property. I guess I don't even know if England has the same marital property rules as America. But.
Yeah, I think that probably the way you find that out is because you probably ask some questions that you do get a text back from somebody, a friend of a friend, writes back and says, check the contracts. And it does look like with Paul's death, Jane gets everything, residuals, rights to the intellectual property. She can decide to take the show to another channel. It's all hers.
Well, if reading all that Amanda Delacourt has taught me one thing, it's the person that benefits the most is always the killer.
And let me remind you, ladies, this was not a violent death. He died by poisoning. That takes someone who knows ingredients pretty well.
Well,
Man,
I do hope that if anyone
poisons,
I do hope if anyone poisons me, it's in a cake as delicious as Jane's. But are we saying then that perhaps Jane poisoned poor Paul, and while he was succumbing to the toxin, she bound his hands to stop him from getting help? Or maybe she had an accomplice. But who? I never trusted that Boosh boy. Stealing all my lines.
But to be fair, we stole all his lines. Oh.
Accomplice or no accomplice? That's a question.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea of Mary Berry being the evil mastermind.
It would explain a lot. Let's be honest.
I'm just imagining the scene where Paul starts choking and she's just staring cruelly,
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, somebody must have tied him up for her.
Mm.
And then what? She fed him one of her special scones?
Mm.
Unless the poison kind of paralyzed him before it killed him.
I think she sprinkled the flour on him and tied him up to hide what she'd done. No one would think anything weird if Paul had scones in his stomach. He'd been eating lots and lots of baked foods that day.
I wonder if the flour was to hide any fingerprints. You can't dust for prints if it's covered in dust already.
That is so brilliant, Rose.
Oh, it was in one of my husband's novels. The case of the Manhattan The Manhattan meat safe murderer.
I'm writing that title down. So I'm hearing Jane poisoned him with something that she had prepared, perhaps sprinkling it over something he judged or something that she brought him, and it paralyzed him. And in order to perhaps point a finger at it being a crime of more passion, tied him up, and then used the flour to obscure any fingerprints. Does that seem like the read?
Yeah, and I would say that, yeah, the whole thing about the red herrings are Scott's like being financed by Paul Riviera and Donna's relationship with Book, and I'm wondering if that sheet cake, the you're dead one was like was either Scott or Mel, like not actually like related to the murder, just like a kind of petty sort of, like
you're going down.
She is a very smart woman. She definitely knew that it didn't take much to confuse local police in rural Maine.
I do wonder if people have heard of just how dense our dear sheriff is.
She did not count on
the mystery
does our book club have a name?
I think the camera has to pan up a little bit, and we see Sheriff Dalrymple has come up the steps to the loft, and he's kind of staying there. Like clearly he wanted to like ask you if you'd figured anything out, and he's like, "Ladies,
well, Sheriff, here, have a piece of cake."
No, I think I've eaten enough crow already today.
Indeed you have. You've missed every important bit of information. Nothing at the scene of crime other than the rope was important.
We'll see about that. And he turns around on his heel and heads out. So this is our theorized move. We've got the max +3, or even above that, but +3 is the max that we roll with. So who wants to roll the theorize this time?
Scott, would you like to?
Yeah.
FYI, I have a thunderstorm rolling in, so there is the modest chance that my power may flicker, but I hope not.
Purple dice coming in. 9 + 3, 12.
That is a 12.
Result.
Okay. So let's move forward to the rush of that bake-off bit, of the craziness of that. Bobby, is there anything here you want to interject? You've got that present day thing about a burgeoning romance, wasn't it? That the crown that you chose?
Yes, that was the crown.
Do you want to take a moment to do anything with that, or you want to hold off on that?
Is it? I can't remember if Etienne is married or not.
He is not. He is an eligible bachelor.
I think I swing by the fishmonger, which is obviously a place of great romance, and I ask him if he's going to come watch the finale of the show as we film it.
And he says, "I'd love to. I'd love to. Love to see you bake. I really appreciate you helping me out. And it was, when something like that happens, you kind of realize how short life is."
That's true, and that's why I was hoping we could spend some more time together. I miss having male companionship. I've got the ladies, the mavens, of course, and we chat all the time. But I miss male companionship.
And he pauses. He goes, "You're a very, very, very modern woman. a little more. Well, yes. For my part, here's some salmon that I for you. It's yeah. Well, yes, and he does that thing where he's clearly uncomfortable, but yes, interested in the idea of that.
Etienne, if we're going to start spending more time together, you're going to need to start calling this Lox, not Salmon. Okay.
Oh, okay, all right. And we cut to the next day. We've got the flurry of activities for your different showstoppers there. This is all going on. You see that Sheriff Dalrymple is there, and you will get the sense that he is waiting for this to wrap up because he's clearly decided that Scott is the killer, and he's waiting to like do a showstopper arrest at the end of the episode so he can be on camera. Like, that's what's going on. There are a couple of the deputies around, and he's just waiting. Like, he's got his arms crossed, like, I'm going to show you what's up. So tell me, Ruby, about your showstopper.
Well, it's a delightful layered cake. I've layered it, the layers sideways, which was my tragic mistake, because of course, once you cut it, you only got one layer.
Exactly.
And it turns out that a purely cranberry cake has a way of being a tad more bitter than I expected. The decorations are beautiful. I've got some nice birds on the outside. I've done I did some hardened chocolate around a balloon to make a little nest for the birds that I've made. So that's a highlight. The presentation is nice until one cuts into the cake and realizes that they've only got one type of cake.
And she, this is an interesting choice here, and then she, cranberry is a very strong flavor. Like lavender, it's a flavor that can overwhelm a cake, and all I can taste is cranberry. It's cranberry all the way down. It's not very good, she says very definitively. And actually, they do a cut back to the other people at their tables, like, because you went first, and she's clearly going to be mean today. She's going to absorb a little bit of that Paul in her, and she's like, yes, you can take that back to your table. And then Bobby, tell us about your flourless chocolate cake. 3 layers, sugar work.
I think she knocked it out of the park. This is sort of her go-to dessert whenever she's entertaining. One thing that I've been doing one thing I've learned as part of Gauntlet Open Gaming is folks have been doing a really good job of finding pictures on the internet and getting them posted. So I'm adding pictures of our cakes to the NPCs. Hang on. So it's the cake is understated, but decorated with kind of local berries, and there's kind of a mermaid, which is sort of the theme of the town, maybe. That's kind of powdered sugar on top of the cake.
The thing that will strike you is there's a moment when you're there as your friend. This is before when you saw Melanie. She's still that kind of thing. She obviously was planning on doing something similar to yours, but she's changed that up to a kind of a banana cake thing with interesting jungle pattern work and stuff like that. But you see her look over, and she sees that mermaid pattern on your cake, and like the the sort of shakiness and kind of humor fades away, and you see her look distinctly at that and stares. And you kind of notice that you're coming right, because unusually you'll see her actually walk off out of the tent on a break. You're allowed to take some breaks, but like sort of immediately after she sees that, she heads out. You kind of step over to follow, and you see her step out of the tent into, there's some people, audience watching the filming and so on, and you see her walk over to Amanda Krause, and you see her make this gesture like you haven't seen, and Krause kind of returns it, and there's a brief conversation between the two of them. And then Krause clearly goes, like, don't worry about it. And Melanie will nod, and then we'll make her way back to the tent, recomposing her face to be that kind of just sort of uptight, off the wall character that she's created.
I strung, yes.
Yes. And she returns back. And Jane is this. Here's the thing that strikes me, Bobby, is when you said you were doing a flourless chocolate cake, my immediate thought was, this is so dense. How do you get 3 layers out of that? But you've managed to create that structure and use the sugar to do that. And this is a treat. What a triumph. You should feel very good about yourself today.
I feel good about myself today.
Good.
You will also feel good about yourself today.
Well, I'm getting all this. If everything else is as tasty as this, then I will be a delight for me today. And Melanie comes up. Her cake is good. She's quite skilled. She will come up, and then Scott presents his, and his is like bakery quality French. French style, has that sort of fluffy frosting on it. It's brilliantly done. Really quite lovely. She brings it over, and he's very excited. And Jane will taste it, and she's like, "That is very sweet." It's like you don't have any contrasting flavors. I mean, it's a pretty cake, but pretty doesn't mean anything if it doesn't taste good. And you'll see him, like, his eyes get wide, and he starts to get angry, but he's on camera, and he clearly flashes back to the last time. And he says, "Well, that's your opinion." And he picks up his cake, and he hoists it back to his place. Rose, what about yours?
So I think I wonder if I maybe would need to do like a flashback or something. But I would like to as Jane bites into the cake, for it to be a nice cake and everything, but has this really distinctive like off flavor. And I want to basically like, yeah, I ran all out of blue. I used so much blue food color, and it's lucky I found this in your things, and pull out a bottle that's the poison bottle or whatever, right? And
I assume the others are kind of have kind of moved forward close by when you do this, and you see her gasp, and she goes, "No! Someone call a doctor! Someone call a doctor! I've been poisoned!"
That's very rude, Jane. It's not. Why? What have you taken?
That's my medicine. It's very. You can't. Please. And she's looking, and Heath is the producer has still got the camera on because this is exciting, and nobody's moving, and she's like, and like she grabs at her throat and takes her a minute, and then she kind of realizes she's not dying.
And Rose,
is this the same poison, perhaps, that you put in the scone for Paul? Is that how you knew this bottle was poison?
She looks at the three of you. I would like to have a solicitor.
Solicitor? You made a mistake. You're in America now. You can have a lawyer. Solicitor.
And Sheriff Dalrymple is like standing there, like, and it takes him a second. You see him like put 2 and 2 together, and then he has to add another 2, and then he processes.
He'll get there. He'll get there.
You see him come over, and he claps the handcuffs on her on camera, and he will say, "Jane Leaf, I'm arresting you for the murder of Paul Riviera. You have the right to remain silent." And he will pull her off, and she's you don't understand. This was my show. I prepared it. I cooked it. I'm the one who wrote the recipe for this show. And they will pull her away off into the waiting police car. And then it gets very quiet in the tent.
Rose picks up a piece of cake. And anyone?
And I think that's a good moment for us to end that mystery on. Does that seem fair?
Yeah.
Let's take about an 8-minute break, because we'll go to the half hour at that point. And then we'll come back and we'll do a little follow-up from that and move on to our next mystery, okay?
All right.
So your son's going to try Godbound then?
Talking to Dan or
Yeah, I think may not have his headphones in.
let me go put the cream back in the fridge. Tea just finished steeping. As a warning, there may be some noise from upstairs. I'll try to stay muted as much as I can, but we're actually right this minute having a refrigerator delivered.
Oh,
So, say what?
Is that Lich based
Okay.
game in the big bundle? I think the racial equality bundle.
oh, is it?
I think so, it might be. Yeah.
It's I can't remember what it's called. It's like scary berry or something like that in there, and it's a sort of a fantasy bake off one.
The thing with that bundle was it was so much content, like I didn't get through it by the time it expired. So now some of the games I was like, the ones that I wanted, you can't cash them in. So once the
Oh.
bundle expires, like I don't get that option that says this is from the bundle.
Oh, interesting. I didn't
I'll
know
have to
that.
go because there's so many views in IO. Like, I like itch.io, but there's so many views that they have. So it could just be the way I'm browsing.
I suspect so, because I've gotten that where I bought something and then I've had to go to a different page to actually get the
Yeah.
download thing to pop up.
Yeah, I mean, I love the site and some of the ways they organize stuff, and then I hate some of the ways they organize stuff as well. It's certainly more interesting to browse than DTRPG, which
Yeah.
they really need to change their interface. It's
Like-
literally the same one that they had when they launched.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The problem with it is they have those big sales like the one they're having now, the Christmas in July, but it is impossible to really filter to be able to kind of go, okay, well, I'd like to see core rule books, or I'd like to see something on that.
You can only filter things you already own.
Yeah. All right. So let's go through and kind of do start of session, start of mystery things to kind of set up the next part. So we've resolved our cliffhanger, and so let's start with our cozy vignettes, and then we also have some playbook moves that are going to trigger here. So let's start with Bobby. Bobby, we've seen some pieces of you in the past. You've had this new burgeoning romance. Well, so what is our vignette? What do we see of you as we come into, some time has passed, a little bit later in the season? What do we see?
Just right. Is there a mechanical thing going on here? Or is this just tone setting?
This is just tone setting,
Okay.
hobbies, that kind of thing to help set things up.
Yeah, I think we see kind of a montage of Bobby and Etienne spending more and more time together, but maybe as we get into the colder months, the romance starts to fizzle, and so
what tells us what is the thing that we get on screen that is it from your end, from his end?
I think it's just sort of a mutual understanding that this was a lady from Brooklyn and a man, a fishmonger from Maine, just don't really have the chemistry that they need to click for a long period of time. So I think they both acknowledge that it was fun while it lasted, but the montage ends with kind of Bobby picking up some smoked salmon at the fishmonger and them just sort of having a kind of transactional type of relationship there.
Nice. And then Ruby, what about for you? What is the cozy vignette we see for you?
There's some disappointment as the summer and the which is the peak point for lots of birds actually in Maine, and so you see what she's doing is the other birders, they're getting together and talking about trips to take down south where they can see some more birds, and just comparing their diaries from the season, and who got the most. Of course, since the others weren't so productive solving mysteries, they've all outclassed me, but everybody's excited for everybody's progress. It's always good.
What are they? Is it? Would you go on a birding cruise? Is that too much for you?
I think more I would go. Yeah, like a Caribbean cruise that then you got off and you went to like bird preserves and things on the different islands. That kind of thing would be totally a thing that she would be into.
So they probably left behind. There's some pamphlets for the various cruises and that. So we see those on your table. And then what about for you, Rose?
Rose is going through the cookbooks, the recipe books of the Jane Leaf. Mm-hmm. And you can see her picking them up, dusting them off, and then taking them over to another bookshelf where she has it labeled True Crime, and she puts the recipe books down alongside those.
Let's do the start of session move for Ruby, or start a mystery move for Ruby. You are out birding. As it gets in, it's getting a little bit crisper out, a little bit cooler. And you will note that you put out bird seed for your birds. You go out there and you will note that some of the birds have perished. Unusually,
on my feeders,
off your feeder, and you will go over and you will see that there's some seeds there that you hadn't put there. And they're pomegranate seeds. You recognize them.
Oh my. Yeah, I will carefully collect them. Where do we have our void clues? That's a void clue, or is that the
this is a free floating clue that you can apply.
Right. Because I have 2 beginning of session moves now.
Oh, what is your other one?
Dale Cooper, add 1 to your sensitivity at the beginning of each section. The keeper will give you a void clue.
Can't take that one because we already have that one on the table.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't see that. All right. Then
That's
I'm
okay.
actually I'm going to take something that doesn't have a beginning of session move, so you can move on then.
Okay.
Perfect.
I think, Rose, that you will have a dream. It's water again. And you are on a ship. And when I say ship, I mean creaking timbers, fog around the billow of the sails, and you will see that the crew is huddled off near the side, old sailor style things, and you can see that they're hauling something in out of the water, and they keep pulling it. What do you do?
I walk over to the edge of the vessel, and I think in the dream, even reach out with a pair of hands and grab on the rope and start pulling it up.
And you will pull and lift it, and you will pull it up. And at first, when it comes up, maybe a whale or a squid or something formless, and then it resolves for a moment into this tangle of bodies of women, and you will see faces. You will see Amanda Krause. You will see some other people like you recognize. You will see yourself. And when you see yourself, your mouth opens and it vomits out seeds that splatter over onto the wet deck. And that will wake you up.
Nice, yeah. Side light on kind of thing. Like, I wonder if there's any of Arthur's whiskey around still.
You do need to keep yourself a little calm, but you've cleared out. I'm going to say, Scott, that your broken shin has healed by this point. Let me pull up. I'm going to pull up the next NPCs and clues sheet here for you. Move that here behind the lines and veils. So we take up. It's early autumn. It's fairly crisp there in the season, and you three have been asked to join an old friend of yours by the name of Letitia Dawes. There is a new bed and breakfast that has been established on the edge of town. It's calling itself Snowdrop House, and there's a pair of out-of-towners that came in probably early part of summer, Eva and Phoenix Cole, and they've set this up as a kind of a neo-Victorian sort of bed and breakfast with a high tea and all of this kinds of things. They've clearly spent a lot of money. They're New Yorkers originally. They apparently made their money and decided to come here. They bought the old Stockton farms and set up here. And supposedly they're trying to present themselves as the finest, a high tea on the New England coast. And they've spared no expense to set this up. And you three are there. Let me ask you, Rose, when you're looking around this place before people arrive and so on, and they've got this set up to have a very Victorian look to it, but what doesn't quite fit? Like what have they kind of got wrong here in the decoration?
I can only say that I feel it's calling back to something I've just done, but it's an American flag. Like it's that flag that just seems to be everywhere in America. Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely, it has to be. And they will. You will get that weird, like they kind of don't know exactly what they're going for sense to those things there. And Ruby, what's one thing here that tells you that they have a lot of money that they poured into this bed and breakfast?
I think it's they've decorated it with the finest from all the really expensive and named artisans and artists in the area. So the paintings are quite expensive. They're not. Let's just get some bird prints and put maybe an Audubon or something. They've really gone all out, even down to the wood carvings that are outside and the sign that they've put. All extremely expensive and fancy to those here in New England who would know. Or,
and perhaps with less care than one might take to how this is going to survive the winter,
Yep.
and those kinds of things.
The paintings are all arranged weird. They've got odd sized paintings next to each other, but not in a gallery wall kind of way, just at the same level, like boom. They clearly don't know what they're doing.
And it's multiple tables set up for tea. There's yourselves, there's Eva and Phoenix Cole, who are the owners, who are kind of hovering around. They've got a handyman, Percy Underwood, and there are a couple of other oddballs here. There's a podcaster named Sanchez, Mrs. Carfax, who seems to be hasn't said anything the entire time that you've arrived, and while they're getting things set up, just seems to be settled in the corner. And this kind of sleazy businessman who's there, who's clearly lacks real class. But Letitia Dawes arrives after you three are there, and she is, in her old days, she was a hard-hitting, hard-living journalist. So let me ask you this, Bobby. You were close friends with her in the past. What was a big story that you helped Letitia break in the past?
I think it was 20 years ago. We were in Brooklyn, and there was some corruption in the borough leadership, where they were maybe funneling money away from schools to line the pockets of so and so. And so I had caught wind of this because my kids were at the school, so I was kind of very involved with the PTA and stuff.
And Letitia is telling this story to Ruby and Rose about the sort of the dangerous game that Bobby played, and if it wasn't for her intervention, I don't know what would have happened. These people were serious; they were not kidding around here. I mean, but it was a big break. I had a good lucrative career out of it. Tapered out in recent years, but it was good. So what have you been up to, Bobby?
Letitia, we came up here to retire, and it's been nice, but ever since Robert has been gone, I can't say that I've been all that lonely, having met these lovely ladies. And I was just so fortunate to run into some folks, to these friends who are also as excited about mystery novels as I am. I didn't read a lot back in the day. I was too busy with the school and the store, but the Delacourt novels really just helped me through some difficult times in my life.
I like them. They're not as grounded as I would like, because I like a good mystery. I really do. But I'm glad to see you enjoying that. Ruby, what is it that here is sort of this tea, or with these people floating around? What is the treat that you gravitate towards here?
They serve grilled blueberry muffins, which is when you cut them from the top to the bottom, and then you grill both sides in pure butter. It's delicious and delightful. They also go the extra step because of putting whipped cream on it, which is, of course, I mean, it's already sweet. Let's just make it sweeter. That's the way to improve a thing.
I assume fresh cream rather than any kind of a Cool Whip or anything like
Oh yeah,
that.
they've made this themselves. It's clearly hand whipped.
Absolutely. So you're indulging in that. It is a lovely taste. You can see that the owners they keep peering in to make sure that everyone is set and good. They come over, serve. The young man comes by to check on things. There are lots of mingling here that goes on. Rose, what is uh, um, what is the thing, the gesture, the object that tells you that Letitia's visit isn't entirely just to see her friend, that it isn't just for pleasure?
She has a notepad, like a journalist's notepad, a little tape recorder as well, that she's just got to hand. Like it's on very like purposeful, kind of put down, knows where it is at all times. Like you can see that she's just got the thing, it's not making a show of anything. It's just there. She's got it. She's aware. I know that, and I look over and I'm like, oh yeah. Arthur used to carry that book when he was working on one of his stories.
And she says, "I'm Bobby. It's been. I'm just so glad to have a chance to talk with you. I really wanted to pick your mind, pick your brain on a couple of things while I'm here. I mean, I'm just doing a review of local bed and breakfasts in the area, but maybe I could get your perspective on something."
She's talking to Bobby.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And she says it's unusual.
What's unusual? What, you need to ask me?
And she see her pause and think like she's reluctant to say anything, but she kind of puts her hands up and,
Letitia, we go way, way back. You can ask me anything.
China goes everywhere. She crashes to the floor, dead.
I scream and I say, call 911, call 911. Maybe Underwood is nearby, and I kind of
Yes.
Okay. Call 911 now. My friend needs help.
He's grabbed a phone. You can see that he actually has to go a couple rooms over because they've tried to make this super authentic, and the phones are in another area of the place. But he's going and calling, and you see the Coles are standing there, and they're Phoenix looks more upset, and Ava's like, she didn't say anything about food allergies. We check on that. We're very careful about that with our food here. We should, that's certainly not nothing there for us. No.
She didn't have any food allergies. She has had dinner at my house many times back in New York.
And Rose, what are you doing?
I think helping. Is Letitia's stone cold dead or dying? Or I think I'm just like
stone cold dead. You go over. She is dead.
My word, she's dead. We'll need the sheriff here immediately.
Yeah, you look up and you can see that Lara Sanchez, the podcaster, has a tape recorder out and is recording the whole thing. And she sees you look up and she sees her. You look at her and she says, "I'll have you sign a waiver later."
Make sure you do.
I also say, keep recording. That could be evidence later. Was Letitia drinking tea?
Yeah, she had a slug of tea and keeled over.
I pull out a handkerchief and
Okay.
pick up the teacup. What's left of it?
Absolutely. Yeah. The problem is that a lot of it's knocked over. There's various pieces there, but you can grab up what you can.
Yeah. Okay.
Carfax is still planted in the corner. You see her, she picks up her cup of tea very creakily and takes another sip of it. And you can tell that Damien Swallow's like, what? Like, he's clearly annoyed that this has happened. And he looks upset. And it's not that long before Dr. Jones will arrive on scene, and you will see that rather than Sheriff Dalrymple, you can see his deputy, Britt Anderson. She has shown up, and she's looking very like up, like not sure what to do, and though you see her like most of her attention seems to be watching Percy Underwood, but she's like, oh, all right, well, this is sheriff's in Bangor at a conference, so I'm in charge of this investigation now. So is she dead? And Dr. Jones goes, yes, she's very dead, very dead. And oh, all right. So we'll get the body out of here, and we'll bag up everything then. And
You might, excuse me, dear, just a word in your ear.
Yes, Miss Rose.
You may want to tell these people that they shouldn't leave town for the evening.
They were going to leave town?
Well, who knows? But if you don't say it, they might.
Oh, none of you can. So, per standard police procedure, we're going to need none of you to leave town. And you need to stay here because I'm going to get some statements from everyone about where you were and that kind of thing. And you see her realize that she doesn't have a notebook and goes back out to the car. And Dr. Jones is calling for essentially the local ambulance to bundle the body up and get it taken away. Ruby, what are you doing? This is the aftermath of the death of Letitia. Deputy Anderson is on the scene.
And I was away for just which room was she found in?
Well, she died along with all of you while she was drinking tea.
So in the dining area. Yeah. While I think while Rose was reminding our clearly far less competent acting, I think I'm sniffing the tea cup and the cream cup, just see if there's any hint of almond. I know that that almond smell shows up a lot in the Amanda Delacourt books, certainly in number 12 and in number 45.
Bobby has certainly pulled together the pieces of the cups that were broken, and you can kind of check that. That does seem like a meddling move for you to go over and fully investigate this.
I think it would be reason in this scenario. All right, so let me delete. Oh, delete both of them, dude. Oh, I rolled an 11.
You rolled an 11. So so that is a clue. By the way, the difficulty for this mystery is a 7. And I think you kind of pick that up, and you and Bobby are kind of, the thing that will strike you is you can smell a little bit of like an off scent, like you're not sure exactly what it is, but it's definitely not right. Like it's it's definitely a poison. But the thing that strikes you is that there's like a smell of like pomegranate there.
Oh my.
Like maybe there was a blended, or maybe some sort of combination. It's you're unsure what is going on there. Bobby, you'll hear some noise outside, and you can see that Sheriff Anderson is kind of pushing back Farmer Stockton. He used to own this property. He sold it to the Coles, and she kind of waves him off as if to say, no, the crime scene, stay out, and so on, before she comes back in. So what do you want to do, Bobby?
I think I go over and try and intercept Stockton. Maybe he's. I was trying to think about how to trigger a day move, so I think that I wonder if the risk is that he's going to come mess up the crime scene, or maybe he's even got a weapon of some sort because he's disgruntled or fed up, or maybe didn't like how this whole deal went down. So
that's perfect.
Afraid that he's going to injure someone.
Okay. Let's have you roll. What do you think it is to kind of go over and try and talk with him or intercept him?
I'm going to go with composure.
Okay.
I rolled a 3 + 1 is 4.
Now, you have a choice here. You can mark a crown, take a crown on.
That's what we're doing that.
Which one do you want to take on?
I feel like I'm going to go Crown of the Void. So I click on I mark the first one, Shadow in the Garden. Is that right?
Okay. That shadow will now hang over your cozy moments. And you can tell that Stockton is pissed, and he knows you, and you hear him kind of mutter, "Oh, out of towners." He clearly still regards you as an out of towner, even though you've been here for a few years, and he's you could tell he's not going to do anything physical, but he's definitely got a bad taste in his mouth when he sees you. Like he's going to be grumpy. You willing to engage him while he's kind of taciturn like this?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And I say, now, Mr. Stockton, look, I know we've not been here as long as you have, but you have to remember when we first moved to town and my dear Robert helped you when your truck broke down on the way from the farm into the town? Do you remember we came across you and we helped you? And we have been...
It's just what neighbors do. It's just what neighbors do.
It is what neighbors do. And what I'm trying to tell you here is this thing is like the truck breaking down. And I'm worried that if you walk in there, things are going to get much, much worse.
What's going on? I saw a police car going. No, that girl deputy wouldn't tell me anything.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Young people always standing in our way. Now, a friend of mine was up here for the opening of the farm, and it was, I think she was doing a review of local B&Bs, but she also told me that she was considering writing a tell-all book about these Manhattan socialites. So I wonder if she was doing a little bit more digging.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. These Coles.
I know how they can be. So
that just, it's not, I just, and he definitely like, he clearly sold it to them, but you see that sort of reluctance, like he's clearly, clearly angry about that still. And he says, well, all right. What's your last name, Bobby?
Oh, we're going to go all in, and maybe it's Feldstein.
Feldstein.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if maybe if you hear anything, Mrs. Feldstein, you'll maybe give me a call.
You know, Mr. Stockton, you were my first call. And remember, you are always welcome to Friday night dinner at my house.
I just, mutter, and he will head off. Clearly, you kept him from like pushing his way in or stomping around the grounds or anything like that. He heads back. You can tell that he probably has just a little plot on the adjacent property, and he heads back there. So the ambulances arrive. They're getting the body carted away, and Deputy Anderson is very careful. And so, where were you when this happened? And oh wait, my pencil broke. Hang on. And this is the process that she's going through there and taking their statements. Laura Sanchez is taping everything, and she clearly has printed out some waivers that she's having people sign. She got Percy to sign it right away because he doesn't seem like he's too smart. And Mrs. Carfax, she's having a real problem getting Mrs. Carfax to sign. So what are you doing, Rose?
I have slid the notebook and recorder that Letitia had from the table and secreted it into my purse.
And you've had some time now, kind of moved away. No one saw you do that. Do you want to take a look at it?
Yes, please. I would love to. Yeah.
Let's have you make a meddling move to see if you're spotted out doing this or if you get something good.
Well, I think of what would it be? Just like Arthur's old MacBook. This might hold all kinds of secrets.
Okay.
Because I want to get advantage on this dice roll.
Please. And your stat? Reason?
I think reason is the one, yes.
Okay.
That's 5, 6. Just 6.
That is a 6. That's not a great result.
Yeah. I'm I will put on the crown of the Queen. I remember how I was an imperfect mother when did I say I had a daughter, I think? Somewhere in London, I believe. And I've forgotten the name of the daughter. But you lose things in your old age. Sarah. So Sarah wanting Rose to move back to, with her to London, or at least out of Brindlewood, and just Rose putting that off and, always just fobbing her off, and because she thinks that there's still secrets to be discovered here. And, that reminds her that Letitia, his secrets here, we came here for secrets as well, so
I think that makes sense. And you probably, your daughter has bought like rolling open-ended tickets for you before, and they've expired, and she's just getting more and more frustrated with you about staying there, especially when she sees, you're involved with murderers, because she caught the episode of the Bake Off, and she's, rather than being admiring of your on-camera revelations, she just seems horrified that you would get involved in something like that.
Yeah, I love it.
You'll pull out Letitia's notebook and kind of flip through it. You have the sense that this is, maybe there's another notebook, because it clearly kind of have the sense it kind of begins in mid. It's in this shorthand. And there's no name given, but she seems to have an irregular pattern. Trying to follow this. Are there others involved? Difficult to say. We'll try and trace. If so, is Brindlewood then the meeting point for all of this? What do they mean by caves? And there's a lot of other weird sort of cryptic things, and the problem, of course, is you're able to pick out some of it from the shorthand, but she's clearly got a style of writing that's unique to her.
Nice. What would that be as a clue, though? I'm not sure.
I would put it as Letitia's notebook, nameless subject.
Okay.
So the guests are still kind of around as the question is going on. They've bagged evidence. One of the other deputies has come with the evidence kit and is, taking fingerprints. They've called a CSI over, and they're trying to get things set. But they're really letting you wander around way more freely than they ought to at a crime scene, Ruby. So what are you up to?
I think I'm mingling with the other people who were there. Eventually, I think I settle on maybe well, I don't know, someone with a friendly face.
Who is that? You've got our NPCs in the tab.
Let's see. So many choices. Mr. Underwood. He looks
hey.
sufficiently delicious to talk to.
Yeah, he's kind of hauling things. They've got him dressed up in a kind of a pseudo-Victorian, like maybe something out of Outlander kind of costume thing that they've put together. And you notice, he's taking off his jacket and he's hauling some things around. And you notice that as he does this, Deputy Anderson just maybe kind of crosses one of the doorways, kind of take a look in and stuff. And it was like, can I help you, ma'am? Can I help you out with something?
That Halloween costume they've got you in does not look comfortable at all.
It's a little scratchy and a little tight in the unmentionables.
Ooh, oh goodness. Well, we will have to relieve that at some point.
Oh, it's all right. They've got a bunch of these things that have me, and I can switch between. If this one gets dirty, they like having me change.
This is some horrible business, don't you think?
Yeah, there's a dead person.
Did you see her when she checked in?
Yeah, she. Well, yeah, I know. I'd actually seen her in town.
Oh, really?
Like yesterday, but she checked in like late last evening.
Where'd you see her yesterday? I was in town, didn't see her.
Oh, well, she was just downtown. I saw her.
Just out and about, I guess.
Yep. It's yeah. Though, and he kind of looks around. He goes, I don't think the Coles will want you like poking around back here. We should probably go to the other part of the house.
Oh, I won't go back there. You don't have to worry about me at all.
Do you want to try and day move to make a connection with him, or do something, or do you want to try and slip past him, or do you want to go to a meddling move? What do you want here? Or are you good with this without going to a move?
I think I'm going to engage my Sonny Crockett move since I just got
Ooh.
it. And since this was a special opening event, I'm dressed to the nines in the sexiest costume I have. Really going all out now that I'm back on my feet, and it's a tight number. It actually is as it looks something closer to what Preja would wear
Okay.
than say an older lady. and so yeah, I asked him, well, let me know if you want to, get together and maybe go to. Have we established a like a bar?
No.
Um,
Oh, we'll go down to the fish head?
yeah, let's go to the fish head is delightful at night. I would love to go if you would want to go with me.
Oh, and that's the moment where he kind of turns around and actually looks at you and you see him go, oh, like realizes A, you're standing that close, and B, you're dressed like that. Let's have you roll that day move with advantage then.
Okay, so let me delete my purples. Oh, there it goes. Roll 3. All right, so we got 7, and I think I'm using, my vitality, so 8. And
Good with that?
I want to put on.
So tell me if you're ready to go with that.
What does the pomegranate kernel crown do? Obsessed with the void, it can never be removed. So what do putting the crown of the voids on do separate from the crown of the queen?
They represent now they go in order. So after the shadow in the garden is the chariot, and there's a little pop-up about what.
I see now.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yes.
Reason down by 1. I've already used my reason, so let's go and put the shadow in the garden on. A shadow in the garden.
Okay. So you push that up to a 10, and he's like, well, you know, he kind of changes his mode a little bit, and he's like, yeah, ladies, we can maybe, yeah, we can meet up down, and you can tell that he's into this and has some rapport, and that he'll definitely meet with you later. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, lovely. You can tell me all about yourself and what it's like working here.
Oh yeah, okay. I see things.
I bet you do. So sweet.
Bobby, you will see the deputy comes over, and she's like, so yeah, so I got your statements, and I got everybody else's statements, and we got the evidence bagged up, and the body's taken away.
Great. You seem to have this police thing down just fine then.
Oh, you see her, like, she's waiting to see if there was something that she left out, and she goes, oh yeah, so I think we're done here for the day, so I'm just gonna kind of, and you see her kind of gesture like, I'm gonna wander around, but her kind of points towards where under what it is, and I'm just gonna check in with a couple people before I head out. So all right.
Did you find out where everyone was at the time of the murder?
Sorry, my headset went out.
That's all right.
Did you find out what everyone?
Where everyone was at the time of the murder?
Yeah, they were all in the room.
Okay. Do you have any other leads? Anything that you think you're going to do next?
Well, uh, uh, I'm going to wait to hear back from the doctor because they'll tell us whether this was a food allergy or like a medical thing or whatnot.
And when do you expect to hear back from Dr. Jones?
I'll have to check with her and find out about that. I haven't heard back from her, but we're on it. We're on it. Don't you worry.
Okay.
And she will head out. You can see the Coles are kind of like, now that the police have left, they're trying to straighten things up and get this back into place. The car salesman looking guy has wandered off to another part of the bed and breakfast. It looks like Miss Carfax is staying here, and you can see that your podcaster friend kind of looks around a little bit, maybe furtively, and then heads out to clearly kind of pace the grounds outside. What do you want to do?
I'd like to talk to the Coles.
Okay. Which one?
Is it possible that any of us are familiar with them? Are they kind of among the rich and famous, or are they just sort of wealthy?
They're a little bit of an unknown. That they're New York people, that, or at least that's where they came from to come here. They bought this place a few months ago and started doing this renovations and sinking a ton of money into it. But they haven't really been very forthcoming with the locals. Usually the people who have bed and breakfast around here, there's at least, while there's competition, there's at least some communication, and they've stayed out of that loop.
Are they spouses? Are they sisters? Do we know what the relationship is between these two?
Do you want to do a meddling move?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. Yes.
So this is you kind of maybe having a chat with them to kind of feel them out a little bit more.
Yeah, I feel like I would corner one of them, whichever one I felt seemed maybe a little bit more shaken or upset by what had happened. And I'm going to roll. I guess I'll roll with composure. Delete and add 2 more. And I rolled an 8 with composure is 9.
Is a 9. So you will, let me see here how I want to do this one here. I think that you will, as you kind of head over to go and talk to, let's say, Eva Cole, you see her hand the deputy an envelope. And you definitely see that the deputy looks and sees you see that. Like, you tried to maybe be a little more discreet, but the deputy saw that and she kind of furrows her brow and kind of puts that in her pocket very quickly, and then heads out. And Miss Cole is like, "Oh, Miss Bobby, wasn't it?"
Yes. Yeah.
I'm very sorry about your friend. She only checked in last night. So, and again, as I said, we check in with our guests about food allergies. So, I just, maybe something that was undiagnosed.
I thought maybe you had invited Letitia here since this was a grand opening and she's a writer. Maybe you were trying to get some publicity or a good review or something like that. You had not invited her?
No, she showed up. She, this is sort of a soft opening. So we were a little surprised when someone who was a reviewer arrived yesterday.
Mm. You seem to know the deputy pretty well for folks that are new in town. How have you?
We have had a good rapport with the local police department in the months that we've been here. We had some problems with Farmer Stockton, and they've been very nice about keeping him off our land.
Did you just say keeping Farmer Stockton off your land?
Well, it's the land we purchased from him.
Oh, that's fair. It seems unusual that you couldn't cultivate a good relationship with the former owner. The Stocktons have been here for generations.
I think that may be the problem, is that Mr. Stockton has not realized that we're in the 21st century.
Oh, that's fair. And maybe you don't realize that we're in New England. And having come from New York myself, I understand that there's a way that we do things up here now. And sometimes that requires a little bit more sensitivity and generosity than what we might be used to back home.
And she pauses and she says, my wife and I will certainly take that under advisement.
Well, best of luck with your bed and breakfast. It's off to an auspicious start.
Oh, she grits her teeth a little there with the dig and nods. Do we want to continue here with this scene? Do we want to, with investigation, we kind of split up? How would we like to move forward a little bit in time, kind of divert, or do we want to stay with the characters on the scene of the crime right here? Any preferences, Will?
I think I want to. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'll be honest. I want to go speak to the podcaster, but
then let's do that. She's out walking the grounds. It's getting on towards dusk. You can tell that some of the people stay here in the bed and breakfast. Underwood's probably going to go back, to his home, but most of the other people will be here. But you see podcaster Sanchez, and from a distance you can see her. She's clearly wandering. It's a chill New England morning. Here we are. As you know, these are towns and cities that are said to be the heartbeat of America. But what about when they're filled with blood? And she sees you coming up. Did you sign the waiver for talking with her, Rose?
I think that I'm coming over to use that as some sort of leverage to get her to talk to me.
Okay.
And
yeah. She's like, hello, and how are you doing?
Well, hello there. So I understand you're a podcaster. Is that what it's called?
Well, I prefer to think of it as a pod artist, but yeah, podcaster's a term for doing it. We're doing new approaches to things here in the art of narrative and voice and so on.
Very interesting. And what brought you to Brindlewood?
I'm going to need you to roll meddling.
I'm burning through them, but I'm gonna use my cozy little place thing again. And I'm going to
yes.
think about. I'm gonna look at her recorder and I'm saying it is rather smaller than a typewriter. And I think I'll be rolling with. I suppose that'd be presence, really, if I was honest with myself.
Yeah.
About it.
3-6, take the two highest, presence.
I'm rolling. Oh no, wait. That was better. It did that thing where it flipped, but it did it the right way this time. So
okay.
Now it's 7.
7. So
if I put on a crown, that wouldn't get me a void clue, would it?
No, it would not.
No, so never mind.
I think what a good Here is, I think you're going to get the condition obliged. Like, she makes you sign that waiver before she continues on.
Yes.
Does that seem like a fair?
Yes. Yeah. Well, she wants to have us on the record our conversation.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And she pauses then, and she will pull out from her pocket clearly she keeps something in there, but she pulls out a folded set of papers and she'll hand them to you. And you kind of unfold it, and it looks like Xeroxes of like a letter. And you can tell that the letter was burnt. And there are just pieces left here in this. And there's a couple of pages. But the thing that will strike you is, like, at the top, it says Brindlewood Bay. And then it says, like, 2003. And then it's obscured about identity or anything like that. But then there's some notes, and it says this. I'm going to give you the sort of paraphrase. It says, "We are worried about the possibility of a cult present in the city. What does it want? Who is involved? We know that they've put at least one person in the ground already. Are there more? How far back does this reach?" And then it kind of fades into where the edges of the paper are burnt.
Wow, wherever did you find this?
This was sent to me a few months ago, right around the time that the whole events went down with the baking murder.
Poor Paul.
It was strange. Within a day of that, this had been sent to me. I had it, and that's why I've come to Brindlewood, to try and find out what this cult is.
Wow. That will make for a rather interesting podcast, won't it?
I hope. I can only hope there's something sinister at the heart of this.
Well, you do remind me of my dear late husband, darling.
Oh, when can I meet him? I'd like to interview him.
I'm afraid dear Arthur has passed away. Arthur Crest,
Oh.
you may have read his work, the Manhattan Meat Safe Murderer.
Oh, yeah. I listened to an adaptation of that, Books on Tape.
Oh yeah, I do vaguely remember signing something, like some sort of document that said something about that once upon a time. Yes.
Interesting. That her eyes maybe narrow, gets a little more suspicious. Well, I should.
Well,
it's getting dark.
I'll leave you to your work, dear. But the ladies and I will be. We hold a book club. Tell me, have you ever heard of Amanda Delacourt? And we can cut with me trying to sell her on Amanda Delacourt mystery.
Absolutely. Let's bring the three of you together again. Does that seem like a fair step? And this is in the evening after the tea. The cops have gone their way. The body is still being examined by the medical examiner, but you can arrive back at the cafe.
Can I suggest that actually we go take Bobby for a drink, given that her friends just died in front of her?
I like that.
Did
you go to the Fish Head?
Fish Head.
So let's start with that. Will, tell me something about the decor of the Fish Head that is the fakest thing you've seen.
It's all like faux fishing stuff, but it's all like store-bought, brand new, like complete. Like, there's even like a price tag on one of them. You know, like it's still got the Walmart like sticker on the end of it.
Absolutely, they've tried to do it up. And Bobby, what's what's unique or striking about the lead bartender here?
The bartender is the only authentic thing in the place. He used to be a fisherman, and but suffered an accident while he was fishing, and so has an eye patch. And so we all just call him Captain Roy. And he's really, really tired of pirate jokes.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, yeah, y'all go. You'll bring over your things, and don't you? Yeah, all right then. All right, yeah, okay then. And he moves along. You expected he would be loved to have just like straight glasses, but of course it got the print of the fish head thing on the side of it, so everything is logoed up.
Yeah.
And Ruby, what is the food specialty that they serve here at the Fish Head?
It's really bad lobster rolls. Too much butter, on the roll. The lobster itself might be the kind of packed pollock whitefish kind. No one can really tell. Getting fresh lobster here is not hard, but this is even tastes maybe frozen.
Sliced Hawaiian roll buns,
Yep.
garlic and butter all over everything, just slathered in it. A couple drinks in you and it's fine.
Yep.
But otherwise, so the three of you are seated in the bar. It's a little bit noisy, of course. There's a lot of buzz about there being a death out at the bed and breakfast, but they're out of towners, so people aren't that connected with it there. Bobby, how are you feeling about this?
I guess, I'm sad. But I feel like Letitia and I had sort of lost touch anyway. It wasn't like she was coming out regularly to see me. And so it was sort of a friendship of convenience, not convenience so much, but it was just, we got something out of each other. I think it's more losing someone that I respected and that I felt like was actually trying to do a little bit of good in the world.
So Will, what's your, let's start with you as the opening bit for this conversation amongst the three of you.
Well, the teacher was surely there for more than just a mere review. There's a woman with bigger things on her mind than a bed and breakfast, surely. If only we knew what.
Does her well, perhaps the information from her notebook could lead us. Something about caves.
Roy, Captain.
What, Miss Rose?
You know of any caves nearby?
Yeah, there's caves all along the Cliff-Old Smuggler caves. Old times. A lot of them collapsed in these days and stuff. I know. Getting close to the shoreline, there's some places have some caves underneath them. Why are you asking? You gonna go spelunking?
Why, yes, we were. One at our age, one does need hobbies.
Winston went spelunking once. Didn't like it. A little too close, a little too tied in. A little too much darkness down in there. I had enough darkness out on the boat. Early morning, you'd be out there, all quiet, nothing but the stars, sound of the fish out there. Yeah. Don't like a cave.
think this is delivered with all the gravitas of that scene in Jaws where he's talking about well, thank you, Captain. You can go back to your duties now.
I did
Maybe
want to ask, are they accessible from the shore? Or do we have to approach them from the water?
Well, I do know. I do have heard some of the land around here has some passages. I know we lost that. Was about would have been about 90, 97 that we had that little girl fall down in that cave. We pulled her on out. You know, but there's lots of little places around, pockets that you can get to down that way if they come on up. Yeah. Depends on how good. Sometimes the ground's not good. There's a cave under it. Things underneath push on up.
I say I'm as much as I'm curious about the caves, and I'm sure Letitia was onto something. Having caught that little exchange between one of the Coles and our potentially not so innocent deputy, I'm wondering if maybe a little investigation of her locker at the station house would be in order.
I wonder if the caves. I wonder how far these caves might go. As far as the tea room, perhaps.
And I think we are in luck that we have such a high quality policeman in charge. Perhaps you noticed their failure to search Letitia's room.
Cool. I think that's. I definitely want to investigate whether there are caves underneath, or perhaps even go to a cave.
So we have caves, we have Letitia's room, and we have the policewoman's locker.
Yes.
And I think that is a good place for us to stop and start with those three investigation tacks next time. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Writing those down here. Let's do our end of session experience check-ins. Ruby, we did solve a mystery, so that's an XP for that. What about, did you secretly undermine the authority of a local official?
Certainly undermined it. I don't know if it was secretly, though.
I'll give you the undermine, so we'll give you a point for that. Did you share a memory of a late Phelan member?
I don't think I got the opportunity to.
No, I don't think so. Rosemary, solved a mystery, so mark an XP.
Mm-hmm.
Did you share your wisdom with a young person?
I did.
Yeah. And did you dote on someone?
I think I sort of doted on Donna Riviera.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah, you spent some time being nice to her, so we'll give you 2 for that.
Nice.
So 3 points total for you. And Bobby, what about you? Did you behave like a woman half your age?
I think my summer fling with Etienne kind of counts.
Absolutely. And I think you definitely showed someone that you still got it.
Yeah, I was thinking my various confrontations with people was the still got it.
Oh, yeah. So that's 3 points for you.
All right, great. That gives me an advance.
So I'm going to stop the recording there. We know kind of where we're going to start out. Next time, I do want to do a quick stars and wishes to see if there's anything we want to definitely get on screen next time and do a quick check-in on that. But otherwise, I'm going to stop this here.